One thing that we really need to remember here is that 20 years ago it was okay to say that data analytics was more of a nice to have, but nowadays the level of standard, the level of a reasonable, competent professional within your industry is utilizing these tools more so, and it's because everything's become automated. And from a point of view of looking at the court cases of malpractice, you really start to realize that you need to start using these tools more just to be within that reasonable, competent person within the industry. What's also interesting is that the COSO studies found that evidence and getting sufficient evidence was due to about 80% of the frauds happening for as long as they did. So if we're doing more 100% auditing, we're going to find more fraud, and that's a good thing, and that's something that we should be focusing on. So as we look to how do we overcome these obstacles, how do we use data analytics on every audit, one of the first things that you can do is brainstorm the use of data analytics in your audit planning process. So as you're starting out your year, and I think one of the best ways to do that is to risk assess your general ledger. And today we're even going to talk about how to stratify your data by month and account, and you'll see how we can do that in good old Excel, which everyone has. And I think that as part of that audit planning process, taking a look and risk assessing your general ledger, you should be adding at least 10% for data fun across all these audits, that it should somehow be a part of every audit. And if you just dropped, say, one audit, you could then apply that time to all of this data fun across all the other audits. And I also think if you can make it a part of someone's annual audit objectives or objectives for their year, you're going to get a much higher compliance rate in actually performing these tests. From a low-cost solution point of view, Excel is a great tool. We have some great training out there already in that area. Excel has really come up in what it can do. There's some add-ins to Excel, which we'll be talking about today, which can be that next stepping stone up for you, and again, do not cost that much. The training can be done in this more self-study, vendor video, just-in-time, webinar basis. So all of those options are available to you right now at very low rates. And you can work your way up to the more advanced tools as you find money and as you find those cost savings to pay for it. As long as you're tracking those cost savings, there's really no reason why, especially if you're working, say, in the accounts payable area, there's no reason why you can't find enough money to fund any sort of program that you're going to be doing in your data analytic auditing. And just a note on Excel usage and taking a look at people that don't use data analytics software from the survey that we did of you, the webinar participant, or just had a very basic knowledge of some of the tools out there, you find that your Excel knowledge is very heavy. I mean, it's either moderate or expert. So if you start taking a look there, everyone knows Excel, and it's something where at a minimum you should be able to apply Excel to every audit. And on the cost saving side, another note here, if you start with accounts payable auditing and take a look at all the cost recovery options available to you, I have an entire book on the topic, you can start to look into all of these other areas that are being paid out of accounts payable, such as health benefit cost audits, lease audits, telecom audits, strategic sourcing where you're looking at certain procurement items that you're spending on, T&E audits. There's just a wealth of cost recovery audits that you can utilize that become bottom line profit opportunities for your company, which again, if you can find $100,000, $200,000 of savings, and mind you, I find millions of dollars of savings for companies, you can just take those funds though, the 100, 200,000, and say, this is a new auditor, this is our training budget, this is our cost budget, and when we apply this on audits going forward, we probably will save millions of dollars for the organization. So again, another way of kind of turning the cost savings that you can get out of your audits into more budget for you to be able to do this type of activity. So nothing really changing here in 2005 and updated in 2008. Myself, Dean Brooks, Mort Goldman, we sat down and put together a buyer's guide to audit, anti-fraud, and assurance software. And in that buyer's guide, we came up with these 10 implementation best practices. And everything that we've been talking about up to this point, what all the surveys talk about, really go to this particular implementation best practices. And what you find is start simple, build iteratively. What you can also see is, build a team of champions. Maybe out of those 10 people, get 4 to 5 people that get quite good at these tools. Try to organize things into a dashboard, assess the total cost of ownership over those few years, but really try to look for that cash return that you can make routine into the organization. And I find of all the audit software out there, be it work papers or Sarbanes-Oxley type risk control tools, data analytics is still the number one way where you can clearly say, I ran this report, it saved the company this much money, we're going to keep running this report on a consistent basis, and it's going to find even more money for us. Be it in accounts payable, it might be in the order to cash area where you're taking a look at how quickly people are paying you, and identifying problem areas there, inventory usage. I mean, the ideas are limitless here that you could find a cash return on, and you should be applying that as much as possible to then show why you need to keep doing this on your audits. And a few finer points as you move up the line there in starting to automate, let's say 5 out of 10 of your jobs, what you can start to do is automate that data import and normalization process. The ability of getting, say, a text file from your IT department, cleansing it through some automated macros in Excel, for example, or in other data products that you're using, to quickly take that data and make, say, one table that has all of your invoice vendor information in one place, so it's really easy, cleansed, validated, and that's one of the hardest parts and takes the longest time to get, but once you've done it a couple of times, you can automate it, and it can take minutes to run. Also, reducing false positives as you look at those reports, say a duplicate payment report that has 10,000 items on it, you can start to whittle that down and identify areas such as, is it paid on a different check number? Did a different person enter it? And you can start to prioritize and mathematically score even the findings so that you're maybe doing an audit of, say, 50 items off the list, but this is a transactionally scored 50 items that are the best items for you to look at. Last but not least, document, 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 and possibly even videotape what you're doing. Almost every product out there nowadays in the audit software area has an audit log, so you can log everything that you're doing in the actual software, as well as you can flowchart, you can document, and with video editing tools like Camtasia that are out there, anyone can become a video editor, be able to put together a little training plan for the department on how to run these reports in the future. And there's nothing better than just watching a video on how to do something than reading a book or going through a flowchart. It's just so much easier to have somebody walk you through it. And even if that person does leave the department one day, which is bound to happen, you can go back to their video, take the data files out, and have somebody else run that application.